Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely. Pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
This is Marilyn Manson, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 209 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Royale Lynn, I want to remind you about all of the Mistress Carrie gear you can find in the online shop. And with Father's Day around the corner, a Father's Day sale. Now through June 16th, get 20% off of men's t-shirts and tank tops and the My Dad Says Mistress Carrie Rocks baby onesie. Just use the code DAD2024 at checkout. Log on to mistresscarrie.com and click shop. My guest this week is Royale Lynn, who grew up in a small town in Canada and moved to Nashville with dreams of becoming a singer and a songwriter. Earlier this year, I met her in Vegas, and I fell in love with her signature sound, which is a little bit punk and metal and a little bit country. She's gone viral on social media with songs like 6 Feet Deep and Redneck Rockstar, and right now, the song Death Wish that she wrote and performed alongside Danny Worsnop from Asking Alexandria is climbing up the rock radio charts. With a new album on the way and big touring plans for the summer, I wanted to sit down with Royale Lynn to talk all about her upbringing and inspiration. We talked about being a small town girl and the big move to Nashville. We also talked about blending styles from rock, metal, and punk to country, and her work continuing the conversation around mental health. The line between rock and country continues to blur, and a whole new generation of artists are making a name for themselves because of it. So, allow me to introduce you to Royale Lynn. Oh yeah, it's about to get weird. Royale Lynn's on the show.
Hello, how are you?
It's so good to see you again. What's going on?
I'm good. How are you doing? It's good to see you too.
I'm doing really good. I met you in Vegas. And we were hanging out at a bar watching a bunch of bands. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get you on the show. You said you would do it. You're a woman of your word.
I am. And I'm here. And I'm so excited to be here.
Usually the first question I ask artists is, where are you? Because half the time you guys don't even know.
Today I'm in Nashville. This is where I live. So I'm home right now. And yeah, we're about to tour a little bit coming up here. So I'm just kind of home getting ready for that.
Growing up in the Northeast, I always thought that Nashville was like belt buckles, cowboy hats, and like cows walking down the middle of Main Street. And over the last few years, obviously, there has been an invasion of rockers that have moved into Nashville. And a couple of years ago, I actually had a chance to go to Nashville and spend some time there. It's a rock town.
I love it. All genres kind of flock here, which is super awesome because you get to create without borders, which is awesome here in the city. So everybody thinks it's really country, and yes, it kind of is, but there's another side of Nashville that people just don't realize is happening here.
Well, I think any music fan, and obviously rock and metal fans are very passionate, can appreciate a city that's built on the foundation of music, because you can't get away from music in Nashville. It's literally everywhere.
It's everywhere, and everybody has different influences. So when everybody kind of comes here, once they move to town, you're kind of getting influences from all over the country, and if not other countries as well, all coming here just to create art. And that's why I love Nashville so much, is the freedom to create and having friends that create as well. It's a super special place to be here, and I'm so grateful I get to live here.
Every time I turn around, I feel like the next band on the show, either they all live in Nashville, one of them lives in Nashville. Like, I feel like everybody's there.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, a lot of the rock community is here because I think it's easy to collab here. It's easy to co-write. All of our producers are here, and if they're not here, they kind of fly in and use the studios here. So it's cool that it's become such a hub for just art in general, and being able to meet people who are like-minded is super special.
And there's a huge live music scene, which I think a lot of cities are losing. Places where you can actually go as a newer artist and play live, or you can kind of walk into a bar and see a legend on stage at like 9:00 on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, it's awesome. I actually spent a lot of my time when I first moved to town, my first 5 years in town, I was playing down on Broadway. So we were playing country covers, rock covers, like singing other people's music for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I really think it's an important tool to be here and learn how to play to absolutely no one, and learn to play to rooms full of people who may not care who you are, but having them at the show, almost invites them to learn who you are. And that I spent a lot of time down there. I think it's a great tool to move to town and play Broadway and play gigs. Just get out there.
Well, you got to win people over too that are sitting there eating nachos.
Yeah.
And as a rock artist, I would think one of the hardest things is to be an opening act for a band that the fans are there to see. And you're just what's in the way of their favorite band coming out on stage, and you've got to find a way to win them over.
Yes. It's such a special moment to be like, hey, you guys probably have no idea who I am, but here's my music, and I hope you relate to it or like it. And it's been awesome to kind of, get out on the road and do some opening stuff, but also still headline and still get our fan base, but still meet such a fan base that you wouldn't have met before that, which is super awesome.
Did you ever look out on stage on some random Wednesday and see someone really famous? Because it happens all the time in Nashville, and you're like, oh God, why are they here right now?
So it's obviously been a second since I've been down there playing the Broadway scene, but yes, it happens a lot more than you think, because I used to play daytime. So I didn't play at night because it's just too crazy and I wanted to preserve my voice. So I would play the morning shift from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. with my band. And you'd be shocked who was just roaming in on a random weekday or weekend when you're playing. It's super awesome.
You have this really interesting story, and this kind of membrane between country and rock is becoming more and more permeable, right? That we've been talking a lot to artists like Tim Montana, Jelly Roll, Hardy, that kind of come from country and are finding their way into rock and loving it. Your story's a little different because you grew up a rocker first.
Yes. So I kind of grew up in the middle of nowhere on a farm. So I kind of got the country lifestyle just handed to me. But I always loved metal, and so my stepdad would have to buy my CDs at the Radio Shack. So I would send him a list of things to go order for me, and he would go pick them up and bring them home. Bless his soul for doing that. And I just remember having such a love for something that was different. In my small town where I grew up, no one was really a metalhead. I don't think it really stemmed from anywhere except watching MTV music videos and just being like, wow, like there's such a genre of music that's not country, because we had the barn radio on country all the time. So I kind of got that. Like, I was raised in a barn in the best way possible. I just grew up a metalhead. So I was kind of from a small town being a metalhead. And once I got to Nashville, I was like, I feel like my influences are showing through in my music. And I was like, there has to be other metalheads that are from the country. And as we've toured, I've kind of learned that, yes, there are a lot of people out there who stem from the country world and maybe were raised as I was in the country, but have a love for such heavier music.
And especially for a girl, you're you're out on the farm. I love that you have the barn radio, that like the barn radio's on country music, and you're like, I need more metal in my life.
Yes. I remember like the first time that I heard Green Day. Like, I remember when I got Bullet in a Bible, their CD, and my stepdad brought it home. Or like A Day to Remember was is still a huge influence on my music and, me as an artist, because I would just listen on my CD Walkman in the car, on the school bus, on the way to school, like it was those moments that I was like, holy cow, like I love what they're saying and I love what they're doing. They talk about mental health. They talk about how much, sometimes life sucks. And I felt like I wasn't really like understood, growing up. And it's because I was kind of the black sheep of the town, and I wanted to be a singer, and no one else wanted to be a singer, so it's cool that music can kind of save. And that's kind of how I write my music now, is hopefully it can save someone else out there.
You grew up in Canada, right? Like in the middle of nowhere, Canada?
Middle of nowhere, the smallest town. It's called Elmer, Ontario. Super small.
We've had a lot of people, the guys from 3 Days Grace, the guys from Theory of a Dead Man that grew up on the other side of the border and now ended up rock bands in the U.S.
Yes.
How did your parents react to this whole thing? Because I know from my parents, when I got into rock the way that I did, that this was not the plan when I was born. The cute little girl wrapped in the blanket. This was not the life they saw in my future. How did your parents handle this whole thing?
They honestly have been supportive since I started singing at like 10 years old. They were driving me to band practices. Like, I was in like an all-girl band back in the day, and I actually did like a Canadian Hannah Montana thing. So they drove me to everything. They were like my mom was like a soccer mom, but for music. And she would make sure, and my dad as well, just like made sure that I was not only like in singing lessons and guitar lessons and just learning how to perform, but I was also on stage and getting nervous and singing in front of people. So in my high school, like I was in the plays because I just love musical theater, and they've always been so supportive. So when I wanted to move to Nashville, they weren't shocked. They were just like, if you're going to do it, you got to go do it then. And I've kind of never had a plan B. This has always been what I've wanted to do my entire life, like since I was 10 years old. And my parents, even though like they always knew I was a metalhead, clearly, because they were like, what are you listening to? Like when I was young. And I just was like, it's so good. And, and obviously like maybe their music tastes aren't very in the heavy metal scene, but they've come to love it. And they've come to love the sound that we've kind of developed, and saying what I want to say, like, we're huge advocates for mental health. And now we get to sing songs about mental health, and it's so special, and it gets to be heavier, but it's also like a hybrid of so many things, and it's still country in ways, and it's still rock in certain ways. And they've been so supportive. I couldn't have asked for a better parents to raise me. They've been awesome.
Does that mean that there's rock and metal on the barn radio now? That's what I need to know.
Probably. I should ask.
I always talk about this theory that I have about your musical upbringing, and you already touched on it when you were talking about Green Day. But I call it the soundtrack to your childhood, the music you get exposed to unwillingly.
Yes.
And
yes.
then there comes a point, and in your case, it was Green Day and that moment where you made a decision about the music you liked. So if your parents weren't listening to rock, what were they listening to when you were a kid that you were exposed to?
So a lot of Shania Twain, which was awesome. I remember we had the cassette tapes. Blue Rodeo was another one. A lot of the traditional country stuff, I would say, was kind of on the cassette player in our truck. And as we grew older, actually, one of the bands, my stepdad used to listen to ZZ Tops. And that was kind of not the first time, but it was a different rock genre than the Green Days and the punk scene that was happening at that point. So I fell in love with ZZ Tops because of him listening to it in his shop, So it's been really cool. They love so much different music, and so many different artists that it was kind of cool. I've got a very well-rounded music education, I feel like, because they were kind of listening to everything.
Does musical ability run in the family, or are you definitely the black sheep when it comes to that?
So for a long time, no one else. My dad actually really wanted to play guitar. So he started taking lessons with me when I was like 14 or 15, and he would come and do his lesson as well with me, which is super cute. And I loved it. We got to do that together. But yeah, no, it was kind of just me, and it still is kind of just me, which is cool. And it's awesome to be able to go home and be like, hey, we're getting to do this, and we're going to this. And my dad and my stepmom and my sister actually just got to come to a show for the first time. They were in Flint, Michigan when we were with Dirty Honey. And it was so cool to have them out to a show because they haven't seen me sing since like I was in high school.
Those Dirty Honey guys, by the way, longtime friends of the show. I could not love them more.
They are amazing. They made us feel so welcome. I can't say enough good things about them. They were just so amazing to be on tour with.
They're super cool. It's well known on the show that my musical ability began and ended in the high school marching band with my clarinet. And
I loved it.
And I have tried and failed miserably to be a songwriter as well. Like whatever that gene is, I don't have it. But I'm really envious of it.
Everyone can write a song.
No, they cannot. No, they can't. I have tried. Look, maybe everyone can write a song. Not everyone can write a good song. I could probably write a bad one. So when you're growing up and you're taking guitar lessons and learning how to sing, discovering you can write songs is a completely different skill set. Is that something you always did or something you had to learn?
So I always was writing my own, I don't even know if you can call them songs. I was writing my own things. I used to write it all out on paper, and like I would make up these songs and I would make my mom listen to them. A fun little fact is that when I was at her house not that long ago, she pulled out this box and I was like, what is this? And she had kept all of them. She still has them of like old songs on like paper that I had written. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. I would like make her sit in the kitchen and listen to them. They were not good.
So wait, she's got recordings or just the notebook pages?
She has like all the sheet music and the lyrics and like from when I was a kid writing these songs. And she would ask me, she's like, how do you write this about things that you don't really even know yet? And now I'm like cringing because I'm like, don't look at them. Just
First of all, where do moms put all this stuff?
When she pulled them out, I was like, this has to be like over like 15 years old. It was crazy.
My mom would do that. Like she would dig out all of this stuff. Like she has my baby teeth in like a Ziploc bag. Like she saved everything. Aww. And I'm like, where has all of this been?
That's why moms are so special, is they keep things that you're just like, how do you keep this over the years?
Yeah. One thing I do not have is that I had a toy cassette player that I used to walk around and talk into. And so there's all of these cassettes somewhere in this world of me like before I even thought that being a radio DJ or whatever was a thing I could be. So it's funny that these things kind of show up early in your life.
Yeah, I love it. And they kind of like show you, or like they preface maybe what's to come, which is super special. That's awesome. I'm really glad I kept those.
Please tell me that you are going to bring these notebook pages into a songwriting session in Nashville. There has got to be one good idea in that box your mom saved. There's got to be one.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. It would be cool to go through and actually look at them and be like, what were the subjects and where, one day I'll go back and look.
When I had Jelly Roll on the show the first time, he went through and really explained that kind of Nashville famous songwriting scene.
Right.
For somebody that can't write songs, I always imagine that, like, the forlorn lover missing someone alone in the back of the tour bus, like a Bon Jovi video. But songwriting in Nashville is like something you make an appointment for, and you go in and sit down with strangers and kind of unzip your soul and dump it on a table. I can't think of anything more horrifying than that.
It gets easier, I promise. I promise. Once you do it a couple times, you're golden. It definitely takes when I first moved to town, I had never really co-written with anyone. I didn't really know that was a thing. And then I got to town and I was, made very aware that co-writing is the way here, which is amazing. And it's awesome because, 2 heads are better than 1 and 3 heads are better than 2. And the collabs, the things that you normally wouldn't get by yourself too. And some people are amazing at writing by themselves. And I more write by myself, and then I'll bring it in to the co-writers and be like, this was what I was thinking. I'm pretty big on I always have an idea in my mind that day of what I want to create kind of thing. So it's super special. The Nashville scene, it's very different than a lot of other places or LA. But the songwriting scene is super special, and everybody's there to create the best thing that they can create. So yeah, it starts at 11 a.m. You have a coffee, you get into it, and you're like, what should we write today? And that's kind of how it starts. If you're in with producers, you go into a dark room. It's like your eyes are adjusting as soon as you walk in, and you sit down and you create it with the track as well. And those are kind of my favorite ways to create, because you can just create anything. And that's how we created Death Wish, was just, sitting there, and we were just like, let's create something that just is outside of the borders that we're supposed to be sitting in.
You're talking about Death Wish, the song you did with Danny Worsnop from Asking Alexandria. The video's out now. Talk to me about collaborating with him, because obviously rock fans absolutely know who he is.
So it has been such an incredible experience. He's one of my favorite people. And the fact that, he loved the song enough to want to also be a part of it as it was coming into the world for the first time is so special. And being able to do the music video together, and we were covered in haze, and we would just emerge, and you couldn't see each other until we're right here. And it was just so awesome and fun. And he's a great dude, and he loves music, and he loves the art of creation as well. And it was such a special collab. It was just so special.
Recently on the show, I talked to Lizzie Hale again,
Nice.
the ladies from The Warning, Ash Costello from New Year's Day. And for someone like me that's been in the rock world for a really long time, the idea that women would literally be taking over the driver's seat of this vicious animal that is rock and metal is something that I've waited for a long time. And now, as you come up through the Nashville rock scene, you're coming into rock in this totally different time where women aren't the exception anymore, that they are the norm now. What is it like for you? And talk to me about the other women in the rock world that are pushing you forward.
So there's a lot of women that I just enjoy the music. And I think that at the end of the day, if we as females can also do what the men are doing, and it can be cool and badass at the same time. I love Courtney from Spirit Box. I think she can scream like no other female. I'm just like, this is so cool, what she's doing. And I can't wait to see, just them grow as a band as well, and just, break records like they've been doing. I also thought that Conquer and Divide are so cool as well. I've been obsessed with their stuff. So I've definitely been listening to a lot of female rock that hits the same as what the men are doing. Because obviously, like, we have a lot of favorites of a lot of men that are doing such badass things, but I'm like, women can do it too. And I'm so glad to be a part of this movement where women get to finally just like kick through the damn box of where they're supposed to sit, apparently, and make a new place for women within rock.
For a lot of people that are listening to this, and it's one of the things that I love about the show, is that, yes, I can talk to all the legends in rock, but to be able to expose people to this new generation, these new artists that are coming up, that are taking the torch and running in a totally different direction. What do you say to a person that's never heard of you before? How do you describe your music to someone that has never heard Royale Lynn before?
Well, I would say I'm just a gal who wants to make heavy music that talks about mental health with a country tinge to it, but rocks out every time you come and see us live. And I invite everyone to come see our live show, because it is super awesome to be able to do what my heroes have done in the past. And I really want to bring awareness to mental health, and that's what I sing about. And that's why I'm such a big advocate for it, because I think that a lot of people out there are struggling. And if we can make some music that saves people the way that music saved me and other people as well, that's my goal. And it's going to sound like if Khaleesi made a rock record, that's what it's going to sound like.
You must get that all the time. For anybody that has never seen Royale Lynn, but you've seen Game of Thrones, please tell me you've done the Halloween costume, because it wouldn't be hard for you.
Yep, last year I finally did it. And the resemblance is crazy. I didn't even realize, because a couple years ago I had never seen Game of Thrones, and everybody's like, you look like Khaleesi, you look like Khaleesi. And I was like, I don't really know who that is. And then I watched the show and I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, she's incredible. So she's badass. And like I said, if Khaleesi made a rock record, it would sound like the one that I'm about to drop.
And she also got to hang around with a shirtless Jason Momoa, which doesn't sound like a bad way to make a living. I'm just saying.
No, she's done well. She's done well.
I'm just saying. All right, we got to talk about the record, because this is going to be a big year for you. Like 2024, Royale Lynn, like you said, kicking the door open. So tell me about the record.
So I have created without saying too much, I have created new music that I think will be very relatable. And even with Death Wish, I created something that could be huge in the first responder community. And because it talks about mental health, it talks about, doing something dangerous with your life and not being able to walk away from that, even though like it's hard on your loved ones. So I am creating a lot of new music that I really hope y'all love, and I cannot wait to share it.
So when are we going to get it? Can you tell me anything?
Soon, I promise. I promise.
I try so hard to get the gossip.
Soon, I promise. But like I said, Death Wish is still, we just released it. I think not even a month ago. So yeah, very much still excited about Death Wish.
Well, as somebody that grew up with a firefighter as a dad, and as somebody that's married to an active duty Marine, the stuff you're talking about is literally my life.
Really?
So I understand exactly what you're talking about, that my mom was a nurse for 50 years. My dad was a firefighter. My husband's been in the Marines for 27 years. So when you talk about how it affects the family, not just the person, that completely resonates with me and a lot of other people, because you grow up in that family not knowing if something bad is going to happen when they walk out the door every day.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's so hard to watch loved ones who want to do, it's their calling, like we were talking about earlier. It's their calling to do that certain type of job. And, you can't stop them. It's what they're born to do. And it's important work. And I just wanted to give a shout out to those who are out there that are risking their lives so that, we can live an amazing life as well. And yeah, so I have a lot of respect for first responders, military, army, everyone out there that puts their life on the line. So I wanted to release Death Wish as our first song to be towards them and dedicated to them.
It is kind of amazing, and it comes up all the time on the show, how much rock and metal is driving the conversation forward when it comes to mental health and really making it completely okay to talk about this stuff. And that when the artists talk about their struggles, I think it's so powerful, because I think so many fans would think, oh, that person's life is perfect.
Yeah.
And when you hear the bands that make the music you love talk about how they struggle too, it means so much. Like, oh, okay, as the listener, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one.
100%. It's important to talk about it. And I want to end the stigma about, not being able to talk about it freely. My whole show is based around mental health and being able to be like, hey, I struggle too. And this is what I struggle with. And even if you don't struggle this way, just know that we're all on this planet doing the same thing every day. We all get up and put our pants on one foot at a time kind of thing, and bringing awareness to it. And I'm just a huge advocate for speaking about it, checking in on your friends, making sure that, the people in your life are good. I preach that because I'm just like, it could take one phone call to save someone's life.
It's kind of hilarious that the freaks in rock and metal are the ones that are leading the charge. I just got to say it. Who
because
knew?
We're not afraid to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's real and it's every day. And it's not just, once in a while. It's like, let's get out there and let's help our friends and let's just end the stigma of, mental health.
Well, I'll tell you the same thing that I told Hardy and Jelly Roll and Tim Montana. Now that rock and metal has got our hooks into you, you're ours.
I'm happy to be here.
You're in our community now. Country doesn't get you anymore. You're ours now.
Oh, thank you so much. I am literally the open-armed welcome that I have felt in the rock community is just, it has been so amazing to meet people just like yourself and just be like, hey, I grew up in the country, but I'm a metalhead, and just be like, you're welcome here is so amazing and cool. And thank you so much for accepting me for who I am.
I call us the land of misfit toys.
I love it. I love it. The black sheep.
Yes, exactly. I love it. I'm so excited to see what you're going to do. I'm going to put all the links to find you online, to get your tour dates, because you're going to be out on the road all summer long. Everything will be in the show notes of this episode so people can track down Royale Lynn online.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it so much.
You got to come back on when this secret album comes out that you won't tell me anything about. You're very good at keeping secrets.
Well, thank you so much. I would love to, and we will absolutely make that happen.
All right, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too. There she is, Royale Lynn. Her new song, Death Wish, featuring Danny Worsnop from Asking Alexandria, is out now, and her new album is expected soon. Check the links in the show notes of this episode to find tour dates near you. You'll also find the links to her social media pages, her official YouTube, and the link to this episode's corresponding playlist. You can check out Royale Lynn's music and all of the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. You'll find all the Mistress Carrie links too. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep. All of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And of course, you can always find me on the radio. New this week, you can hear me in the middays on Charleston's Best Rock, 98 Rock in Charleston, South Carolina. And don't forget the Father's Day sale in the shop online at mistresscarrie.com. Just use the code DAD2024. The Mistress Carrie Podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.